Welcome, brothers and sisters. My name is Eros and I am the Doll Maker. Today we will continue with our series about the elements and we will try to get a better understanding of the elements of Earth. First of all, we need to understand that elemental Earth is the most physical element, is the most dense element. Above all the other elements, this one is the more compact, the one that is more physical, as we said. So we can count upon the element of Earth for any sort of manifestation, especially the manifestation of physical things, but any sort of manifestation. So whenever we want to gain physical properties or build our assets, but not exactly money, because as we've learned before, money is a currency, our currency. So they are more related to the element of water. And also this physicality of these elements could be channeled to gain the ability or perfection, our ability to observe facts and data, physical facts and data, numbers set in stone, to better understand them and even to better explain them and expose them. Then, we also know that elemental Earth is an extremely resistant element, so we can channel elemental Earth to become more stoic, to build up our stoicism and even our determination whenever we need to be unshakable. And also, of course, for operations, magical operations of protection and defense of any sort towards ourselves, to guard our assets and our properties, or even to protect someone else or their properties, to protect someone we hold dear, of course, especially through hard times when we are subject to be shaken, to earthquakes, if you want. Then we need to not fall on the dark side of these elements. So we want to build a strong foundation. We want to be unshakable, but we don't want to become static. We still want to be able to change our mind. We still want to be able to change ideas when necessary. So we want to be stoic, not static. Please always remember this concept. We want to have a strong foundation and not to be shaken by a simple gust of wind, but not to the point that we become stagnant, static, even better. Then, the element of Earth is a grounding element, so we can count upon the element of Earth for any magical operation that requires us to ground, even other elements, because this one is the most dense. So, for example, using grounding operation, grounding rituals related to the elements of Earth, this element will drag all the other elements to the ground, and it will allow us to get a better balance, to discharge our unbalanced energies to the ground. But also on a conceptual level, this correspondence to grounding teaches us to be pragmatic, to be rational, and to do rational analysis of our situation and eventually our problems. But also, at the same time, This is teaching us to face one problem at a time. In a sense, you may say, divide and conquer. So, we want to build strong, unshakable foundations, in this sense, to discharge the weight we hold inside to the ground in exchange for stability and balance. This is the main essence of the grounding capability of the element of earth. That is also related to health, because of course this is a structural element. Earth is structural, first of all, and it reminds us of integrity, mental, spiritual integrity, but also physical integrity in these correspondence, and maintaining physical integrity, solving physical problems in this sense through operations related to the elements of earth, through magic. In a sense, even we are welding things, because of course welding is related to metals, and metals are minerals, so of course they are related to earth. And even if this operation, through this healing operation that we perform through earth, leaves us with scars, scars are, in a sense, our story written in our skin. For example, there is this amazing practice in the Chinese tradition to weld together pieces of broken pottery with gold. And this pottery gain value through this welding, through this operation. Because in a sense, we need to have integrity. We need to maintain our structure, even if this means that we are left with scars. Let them be golden. Let them build you. Let them tell your story. There's nothing wrong with it. Because of course, in the worst case, even while our body decays, our soul still grows. And of course, in the end, every body erodes. Every one of us will physically return to the earth, but our soul has grown if we have worked correctly. So our physical shell returning to the earth will simply allow the physical matter to be rebuilt into our future physical body, while we reincarnate, and everyone's, while the cycle of life and death continues. And it will never stop, of course. Then, of course, when we study elemental earth is teaching us to better understand wealth. So, understand the value of our work, understand the value of our properties, the time we spend to build our properties, our professionality. And also, in this sense of the value of protection and defense of our work, of our professionality, of our properties. And of course, through this physicality, Earth is also teaching us the importance of fertility, of course, to allow the consecution of our evolution. But also, in this sense, fertility is also teaching us through Earth that we need to perform durable actions and durable choices. Everything in the long term crumbles to dust. Earth is the most stable physical element. So, studying Earth, we should be inspired to perform choices and actions that last longer. So, to be rational, pragmatical, taking the lead, and even building more stable wealth. Because of course, our souls are immortal. Forgive me, our souls are immortal. I want to be clear in this concept. But still, in this experience of life, we need to do the best we can, and to be the best version of ourselves, we need to make stable, durable, reliable choices. Then, as always, we could be shaken by the events of our life. They can strike us just like earthquakes. So, this is one more reason to make durable, stoic, determined choices. Then, as always, I know that many of you are fighters, so we will do a fighting example. So if we were to put our body again into the pentagram, into the equilibrium of the elements, we could clearly see that the elements of Earth will be positioned, of course, if we are right-handed, in our right leg. That, of course, is our stabilization leg. That also allows us from a striking perspective, for our heaviest strikes, but also usually the slowest strikes. But most of all is our stabilization legs, and could also allows us, in this example, to stabilize any other technique, any other element. Because, of course, when we strike our target, we need to build a kinetic chain that connects us to the ground. We always need stability and grounding in any situation. Then, of course, this is the importance of Earth into a fighting perspective is pretty much clear. Our physicality is, of course, extremely important in combat. It's not the only factor, it's never the only factor, but could give a strong foundation, great stability, great physicality. Taking care of our body, of course, gives us an amazing advantage in fighting, but in any field of our life. Then, if you want to talk about a completely different example, we can clearly see that, still talking about survivalist perspective, following the trees of survival, we see that we can survive 3 weeks without food. Now, personally, I think it's a little bit too long. but just reading the laws of three, it will be 3 weeks without food. Now, of course, it will be extremely painful, and you will be mostly unconscious at the end. It's a slow erosion, but this law is reminding us of the importance of essential physical things. If you follow these teachings, these lessons, you are probably more interested, forgive me, into spiritual matters and understanding mysteries of our spiritual pacts, but also many other things, the meanings of many things we do and why we are here. But to do so, we need to still value physical things, at least those that allows us to survive, to still study. So never underestimate health and wealth to continue on your journey. In this sense, we need to spend to gain. Then, as always, now we will start with strict correspondences. As always, we will start with the color of Earth, that is green, but if you analyze Earth with a more alchemical perspective, we find black, olive, russet, and citrine. Then the season related to Earth is winter, and the timing in our life is the old age, but during the day is midnight. The cardinal direction related to Earth is north, and the guardian tower related to Earth is the archangel Uriel, depending on your pronunciation, the great Lord my life belongs to. The suite of tarots related to Earth are the discs, but the court cards related to Earth are the princesses, the 4 princesses. The physical metal related to Earth is lead, but of course you may find different explanations in different grimoires. And in alchemy, the element related to Earth is salt. So the starting physical element, the starting physical material for any reaction. Of course, the physical state related to Earth is the solid state. Elemental spirits related to Earth are traditionally in the grimoires gnomes, also found with other names, but they seem, in my personal experience, they seem to allude to a masculine spirit. In my personal experience, when I've worked with Earth elementals, I always met dryads, so feminine, anthropomorphic entities, or those spirits that I call Virms, so worm-like, really big creatures, burrowing creatures, by the way. And this brings us to the physical animals that are related to Earth, that are most of the burrowers, many digging animals, and a lot of herbivores, especially livestock is related to Earth, and also in this sense prosperity and so on. The magical weapon related to the elements of Earth is the disc or the pentacle, depending on your tradition. And the magical operation that we perform through the element of earth are a lot, but we can quote the creation and preparation of jars, witch bottles, crafting puppets and dolls, the preparation of salts, powders, or pulvas, depending on how you want to call them. Anything that we prepare related to dirt, for example, the use of cemetery dirt, and any operation that requires us burying something or creating physical anchors to call upon spirits. And the part of an herb mostly related to his earthly side are the roots of a plant, obviously. Then, talking about the herbs, we see that earth is related to grains, including flowers of those grains, parsley, sage, mugwort, and apples, but also vervain, moss and oak moss, valerian, blueberry, cypress, and fumitory, but also clover, patchouli, vetiver, fern, honeysuckle, alfalfa, potatoes, but also pretty much every tuber, oak, and tree bark is also a part of a tree, in this case, related to earth, especially the bark of a tree that has fallen to the ground. Let's see if we got anything else. Yeah, of course, mushrooms. But please, be careful whenever you work with any herb, especially when you harvest any herb. But be especially careful with mushrooms, because they can be not only extremely dangerous, but even deadly if you're not careful. So be extremely careful if you decide to work with mushroom. Then if you like to work with crystals, you may want to pick quartz, hematite, malachite, bloodstone, marble, granite, and the humble but not less important common stone. In a zodiacal perspective, we know that cardinal earth is in the sign of the Capricorn, fixed earth is in the sign of Taurus, and mutable earth is in the sign of Virgo. I know this has been a complex one, so please, as always, take your time to take your notes. I hope I will see you in the next, and if I'm not wrong, last video of this series. As always, I deeply thank you for your kind attention, and may eternal light always shine upon you.